This is a V8 Jetsprint boat. They almost defy physics and are the most dynamic watercraft on the planet. They are capable of reaching speeds of up to 80 miles an hour in less than 2 seconds. They'll pull more G-forces than an F-111 fighter plane on takeoff. The acceleration is quicker than a NASCAR and with substantially more horsepower. An unlimited V8 Jetsprint boat has up to 1,600 horsepower and no brakes. The men and women who race these boats are certifiably and justifiably requiring mental analysis. Ladies and gentlemen, you'd better hang on to your children because these methanol-sucking monsters are so powerful, they will suck small animals from trees and spit them out of the exhaust pipe. If that doesn't make the hairs in the back of your neck stand up, you'd better go to the doctor because you might be dead. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Jetsprint Show, the show where we understand that sports build character, but it's the characters that make the sport. And tonight, joining me on Zoom from Western Australia is Ivan Safranek with an E. So, g'day, Ivan. How are you, mate?
Good, Cavey. How you going, mate?
Oh, sensational to have you on the show, mate. You're well known in Australian circles and also internationally. Jetsprint from WA, and yet you only race in the East Coast so far. You've never raced a Jetsprint boat at the home of West Coast Jet Sprinting in Baldivis, south of Perth. Why?
Not yet. I mean, I originally bought, to rewind back to 2017 or the end of 2016, I did a deal with Ben Hathaway to buy his old weapon boat, which is now Katana. So I bought this boat and Ben said, look, come over here and do one race. Let's see how you go. I just want to see you in the boat. And if you got any questions, you know. So we did the one race and it went really good. And I raced Graham Reynolds that night and I won that in the 350. And so I thought, oh, well, Ben goes, come back to the next round. Let's do the next round. So I thought, oh, well, we'll see how it goes. Did a bit of a deal with Brad Marsden. He came through and helped me out a lot that season. And just started racing for 2017 over in the East Coast. Made a lot of friends, and I really wasn't geared up at all to race on the East Coast at all. There was no intent. It was to buy the boat, bring it back to WA. And then all of a sudden I had all these awesome people help me out with all these, you know, incredible, you know, the help has been amazing over the years there. So I sort of just stayed there racing, and then I've wanted to come back to WA, but Katana wasn't eligible with the 8.5-inch pump situation they had here. So never actually got a chance to race her, but be seen in Chris Kent's boat.
Well, mate, that's another story in itself. Of course, you and Chris sort of lining up and doing a couple of deals, and going to be back racing pretty soon. And hopefully, well, once all this COVID stuff finishes, racing in Western Australia pretty soon. Yeah.
Look, this is the one really I've never raced here, so I only go and watch. But the racing is really cool in the fact that it's a summer series. And it's opposite to the East Coast series, so it'd be great to see a few of the East Coast boats over here at some stage or another, you know. And
because it is a beautiful track out there, mate. You know, a lot of people sort of say, oh, the tyres make it look ugly, but we know for a fact you can't grow grass on that. They've had agronomists and, you know, all sorts of technical people who know a little bit about plants trying to work it out. You can't grow grass there. Secondly, you're running 11 to 12 meetings a year on that facility, which blows it out anyway.
Yeah. Look, you know what Keith looks like, and that's a perfectly groomed track before every race day. And at the end of it, you see it washed out in a certain place and it gets a bit blasted out here and there. Look, that could be sort of counted and thought about in the planning of it. There's a few reasons why, but at the end of the day, I mean, I hear, you know, people just go, oh, the tyres. Well, I mean, we shouldn't be going on the tyres in the first place. That's what jet sprinting is about. It's not about the tyres, you know. And neither is the grass in Keith, nor is it the grass at Cabba, you know.
Yeah, any track, mate. You know, it's not going to work for you, is it?
No. Look, if you're mowing grass with impellers, then you're doing the wrong thing. A jet sprint boat was designed for, you know. And at the end of the day, it's the same thing with the tyres. I know, I get it that you know it can grab the boat here and there, but look, it is what it is, and it's the same thing for everyone. You know, everyone's got to do the same thing. So. I mean, I haven't raced yet, but I'm not going to be bitching about it either.
No, of course, there's no point bloody whinging about it because you can't change it. And, that's a fantastic attitude. And, mate, your background before you got into jet sprinting was motocross, your absolute passion, but it also caused you some pretty big changes in life as well.
Yeah, look, I raced in New Zealand finished off my racing career here in Australia in 92, and we had a contract to race in Belgium in 1993 in the World GP Series. And we did one race in New Zealand, one last race, went over to North Island, broke my back, and spent 3 weeks in Hamilton Hospital, and they flew me back to Perth, and that was the end of motocross. So it's changed me for sure, but it's also opened up different opportunities, different things. Who knows, mate? Life is funny like that,
Oh,
And,
that's it, mate. In so many ways, being in a wheelchair in itself is defining, but being in a wheelchair, it's the opposite. It doesn't define you. The chair doesn't define you, of course, because, mate, you're still active. We're going to have a look at a quick photo here, of you motocross racing, just waiting for Dale to put that up for us and have a bit of a look here. So, mate, tell us about this photo here.
So this is the last of the old me. I mean, this is 1992 during the last race season that I raced. It was a great year. We got everything together with Suzuki. They were so helpful. It was just anything you wanted, you got. It was an awesome year. It was the last season that I raced professionally. I was only 17 at the time, and even physically for motocross, I wasn't even coming into my own as far as, from a muscular point of view and all that. So I still had a lot of growth to go, but, everything was just set. We were going to Europe, and it was just, whole other chapter in life. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks after this shot, that was it,
Yeah, life changes. And, mate, look, actually, one of the things I remember up at Cabarita there, and you had your mate Scotty as part of the crew there, and I called you guys Spare Parts Racing there, and people got a little bit upset with me because, Ivan's bloody legs don't work that well, and Scotty doesn't even have one of his legs.
Right. Scotty lost one of his legs, right?
But the funny thing is that after the racing or whenever it was, you and your mate were having a wrestle. You and Scotty were having a wrestle, and it looked like he's thrown you to the ground in your wheelchair, and it was bloody hilarious.
Yeah. Right, so Scotty and I from day one had this sort of relationship because of a personal injury that we've got to ourselves, and we both did it in very similar circumstances at a very similar time in our lives, And, so we sort of shared a lot of that fun and a lot of humour. I just remember, look, Scotty came up and grabbed me from behind. And while I was sitting in the crowd watching some other runs, I was sitting in the sort of in the tent area there where the drivers are sitting, and, we're watching some runs, and I was having a look at a few things that were going on at the track at the time. And Scotty came up from behind, grabbed me and pulled me backwards and laid me backwards into the ground really fast, but really controlled. And an inch and a half from the grass, he literally stopped and just gently rested me down. It was perfect, It was just like, but from the outset, maybe to some it looked horrific because some lady just charged up through the crowd and just lost her mind.
That is just, it is really funny because blokes being blokes, it doesn't matter what's going on. You're going to have a wrestle with your mates at some point. And
look, I think
it's one of those things that really stood out for me and just makes me realise that, it doesn't matter your circumstances. You're a bloke, you're a good bloke, and you're involved in jet sprinting. And, you won the LS class, the Australian series in 2017 and 2018. Can you talk us through the hand controls that you have on the wheel to suit what you need to do?
No, not really. Yeah, I can. I think hand controls in a jet sprint boat are a huge advantage, and so therefore it's people see it as it's for his disability, and that's true. I still drive with my legs. I'm a hybrid of sorts. I am incomplete T12 L1, so which means my brake is very low, so I've got no movement from the knees down, but I've got some movement in my quads, so I can barely sort of stand and do a couple of steps and stuff. But it's more like a waddle, and I can still drive with my feet, but in a jet sprint boat, the G-forces are too much. There's no way that I'd trust my feet to have a throttle control, and So I designed and built this hand throttle, just playing around with a carby on the bench, and we had a cable, and I just quickly designed it up, drew it up on the computer, sent it to the laser cutters, tacked it together in Temora at Scotty's place. In Orange in New South Wales, and it worked straight off the bat, boom. And it's basically just a 2-finger hand throttle that I've got, and it just I think dexterity is a big thing, I think, in any sort of sport, and a lot of people in jet sprinting are going, that doesn't feel right to use your hand for a throttle. But motorcycles, lawnmowers, ATVs, jet skis, a lot of this stuff is hand throttle based anyway. So you've already got that dexterity there. A lot of people have already done that, unknowingly.
I guess.
And then they just sit in a jet sprint boat and they go, oh, it's got to have a full throttle. So basically, I just use this hand throttle, and I'm just coming out with I'm just setting up a new steering wheel that's a complete setup. So it's a steering wheel and hand throttle combination that I'll be hopefully running on Chris's boat, and then I'll make another one for Katana.
That's good, mate. And look, we adapt, and let's have a look at the next photo we've got on the list, because as we ask all our guests is show us a couple of photos of what we've got coming up, and then we can talk about them, because we like to see what's behind the scenes. Now, obviously, we've got the jet ski there, mate. Is that you lying in the water?
Yeah, so this was 1994, just after I came out of rehab. I went back into another passion of mine, which was jet skiing. And so I used to have stand-up skis, and I ended up getting this sort of X2, which is a sort of halfway between a stand-up and, actually I wouldn't say sit down. It's still like a stand-up ski, but with fixed handlebars on it. And so I started, that was my next thing. I started getting into that, and that's never sort of left me, and hence the jet sprinting connection. I've just been, racing skis. That was in 94. And I ended up, I think, second in the state championship on that limited X2 650. And it was just sort of skiing, then progressed now to jet sprinting.
Mate, what is the passion for speed and power? Where did that come from for you?
High-speed pursuits with the Ranger behind Mum and Dad's house. Nah. Yeah, look, I ended up like we had this park behind Mum and Dad's house, and the Ranger kept trying to chase me away, and I was, it was the 70s. Of course, you let your 4-year-old, 5-year-old son ride in the park behind the house, right? I mean, So, I used to do a bit of riding there, and they kept catching me, and they're going like, listen, take him to the track, and so I started out at the motocross track at 5, and I guess it sort of changes you, I think, when you're that young, and you sort of do things where you race, be it around a racetrack or anything else that you're doing at the time. You sort of want to get that feeling back, that sort of that rush, so
that adrenaline rush, mate. So let me ask you this: the movement into jet sprinting is a fairly natural progression, from a jet ski, I guess, but what specifically does jet sprinting do for you, for Ivan Safranek?
I'd always wanted to, after I broke my back, I came back to race motocross in 95, and I did something that the doctors said I'd never be able to do. They said, you'll never be able to race again. And I raced, and I did really well. I finished second in the state championships on a 500 in the open class. And so once I'd done that, something had left me, and I just lost all drive and passion for motorcycles, like for motocross. I guess going into the jet sprinting, getting into that, I mean, I just, I don't know what it does for me. Sorry, Cavey, I'm just, there's a lot of, yeah, sorry, go on.
it's just sort of a bit of a tricky question because, you know, look, we know that the speed and the power and everything like that, and look, the camaraderie, as we always talk about, is second to none. But we'll leave that one and we'll move on to this next one.
What I was going to say was I've always wanted to sort of race sprint cars, and I couldn't get into it, and I just couldn't afford to get into it. And every time I got somewhere close to it, everyone promised me something, and it never sort of eventuated. I never got there. Sprint boat is somewhere between sprint cars. You sort of got to ride. You got to watch what the water's doing at times when you're running over some chop, and you got to see what's going on. It's kind of like motocross where you're searching for a new line every lap, and you've got to find flow like on a road race track, you know. So it's got a bit of everything. That's what Jetsprint does for me.
Mate, I bloody love that answer, mate, because, you know, when you're the first person to ever marry those sort of three sports, motocross, obviously jet sprinting and sprint cars, and it's never been quite put to me like that, but I certainly really appreciate how that mindset really works. We're going to have a look at this next photo here. Just wait for that to come up on the screen because I don't have control of this here, mate. There we go. Now, that's the I dare say the bike that you said that you won, got second in the championships in the 500 class. Is that right?
No, this is a much later bike. This is a 4-stroke which I had for a little while. I was riding on, and I'd go and coach on it a bit and stuff. Yeah, I basically rode this bike for a bit and got back in. I'm trying to get back into a bit of motocross. I've got a lot of good friends still in the sport, and they're just trying to sort of, once in a while, they try and drag me back in, you know. So I'm going to try and make my way back in a little bit. But it does make me wonder at times, you know. I sort of think I love the safety of a roll cage, and the safety in jet sprint racing is just, you know, it's fantastic. You know, I mean, you see some of the crashes that we have, and, you know, we don't have injuries, you know, for the most part. And so therefore motocross is kind of like it's a true love. It's like why I wasn't able to answer what jet sprinting does for me. There's something about motocross that I absolutely love and also loathe, you know. So it's kind of like,
mate, let me ask you this. Obviously you can get on the bike. What stops your legs on a motorbike from flying around? Because you don't have great control of your legs. I mean, what do you do? Just bungee cord them to the exhaust pipe, or what do you do?
Believe it or not, no. After my accident, I've only retained from my sort of waist a couple of muscles, one of them being the quads and the muscles on the inside of my legs. I should know the name for it, but I don't. Anyway, so I can sort of grip a bike and I can stand up to a bike in some ways, you know what I mean? Like, so I've got just the two muscle groups really that all I need to be able to ride a road bike or a road race bike or a motocross bike. And yeah, I guess.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Actually, I just wanted to go right off that subject. We were saying before we went into the interview, you've actually got your phone leaning up against a cask of sparkling water. Now, I need to know. Water's not one of my favourite things in the world. I mean, you know, okay, it's good to swim in it and race on it and do all those sorts of things. I don't really understand
sail through it. You normally sail through it.
Yeah, well, sailing, yeah, but you know, what is sparkling water, and what kind of yuppie are you?
Well, actually, I'm not. It's not holding up my phone at the moment. I decided to go with a different plan, but it's just filtered water, mate, in a cask.
Why can't you buy it? Can't you just turn the tap on over in Western Australia and it comes out the tap like everywhere else?
Oh, you can, Cavey, but I've had so many dramas in my life. Why would I want to get poisoned by our water?
Oh, mate.
Nah.
Hey, we'll have a look at
mate,
this.
I am. Look, I'm a water snob, mate. I really am. You know, I am a water snob. Like if I'm somewhere and somebody gives me a glass of water, I don't refuse it. But if I've got to enjoy it, yeah, I've got specific water.
Oh, well, fair enough too, mate. Fair enough. I just thought it was an interesting. Well, I don't know. It's a little bit. Yes, chap. I'll just have I'll have a drink of my filtered sparkling water if you don't mind.
Yeah, don't worry. I don't. This is my little garage under my house. Don't worry. I don't have a coffee machine here, like a full barista coffee machine or anything.
Why not,
mate? I'm not the yuppie you think I am.
Hey, mate, we're going to have a look at this other photo that you sent through, and I do love this one. It's got the silverware all there. Katana, where's this picture taken, mate?
This was in Griffith in 2018. We ran the LS for the first time. We ran an L98. So in the picture in the back left, there's a friend of mine, Andrew. He's from WA here. And then we all know Kevin Dunn in the middle there. And then to the right is my engine builder and really good mate, Jeremy Ryman. And Jeremy slapped the motor together for Katana for that weekend. We did great. But that photo, I really like that photo because that was taken on the Sunday after the race in the morning as we were taken off home and just saying bye to friends. And I guess it's in that photo, there's a few things going on, but one of them's a good friendship, friendship between, racers and support crews and friends. And yeah, something about jet sprinting that brings people together that I love so much,
Oh, mate, it's just phenomenal. And we have one of the things that I find quite amazing is, well, not amazing because we're part of it, but even kids and family, and of course your daughter, when she's around at the sprint, everybody knows everybody. And it's like, it's funny because the kids get up to doing whatever they want to do because there's so many eyes on them to make sure they're not getting up any trouble.
Yeah, look, I think I love, you asked me about not racing in WA, and the reason why I've loved racing on the East Coast is not because I've got anything against WA. It's just on the East Coast, the one thing I do love is the camaraderie and the fact that I think that there's a certain dynamic that we have over there that everyone comes from a different state and we all meet at a race meet and then we kind of, for the most part, separate. Some people, of course, stay in touch with each other that live in similar areas. But for the most part, we sort of separate and we all catch up again at an event. I think that makes for really good sort of friendships and camaraderies and, people you sort of meet along the way and have as lifelong friends,
Oh, mate, well, that's right, because, look, and it's the same pretty much everywhere except WA, because everybody camps at the track because you're not going to drive, just get up after a race meeting and drive home for 20 hours unless, you've got something important to do. So everyone hangs around for that little bit longer. And look, mate, I'd love to see you racing in WA because, I need to get back over there again anyway, just to, Western Australia, they do call it wait a while, WA, wait a while. It's the only place in the world I've been to where you order a beer at the bar and the barman will actually wipe the bar down and go, yeah, wait a while, mate, I've just got to finish doing this. Now, it's just, but a beautiful part of the world.
Yeah, look, I love living in WA. It's a bit far. It's isolation as its downside. It's isolation as also its massive upside, and yeah, it's a nice place to be. I really am looking forward to racing here, and I got a lot of friends that are actually quite pissed off at me. They say to me, after not racing for a few years, you go and find a Jetsprint boat, and then you race it over east selfishly. And what about us? We hang out here with you on the West Coast, and so. Yeah, I'm looking forward to West Coast racing for sure over here. Anyway.
Oh, mate, it's going to be an absolute cracker. Hey, Ivan, we are running out of time because Zoom gives us a little bit of a certain time frame in which we need to get it all sorted, mate. It's been fantastic having you on the show, mate. Thank you for making the time to join me. And
thank you, Caveman.
Hopefully we can get out of this bloody, I don't know, whatever this thing is that we've got, COVID. I've got a weird view on it. I reckon everyone's going to get it at some point. Let's just get on with the bloody thing. But before anybody hangs me about having a statement, just remember that's my opinion and I'm allowed to have one.
Sure. Yeah. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Hey, Ivan, thanks again. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks to Ivan Safranek for coming on the Jetsprint show. I'm Caveman. We'll see you next time. Hooroo.
Thanks, Cavey.
Cheers, mate.